.01 Superintendent Spotlight on the program. Religion Spelling Bee, the Religious Spelling Bee. Dr. Bunk.
Thank you, President McFarland, Washington Central School District community, and all of our phenomenal spellers. We want to thank you and your families for being here tonight, and we are extremely proud of you. And at this point in time, I would like to introduce one of our directors, Mrs. Jenna Chanella. Could you talk a little bit about the spelling bee?
Good evening, everyone. As Dr. Bunk said, I'm here to honor all of our students and families in our audience today that have participated in our spelling bees. Since 1925, children across America have participated in classroom, regional, school, and national spelling bees. Again this year, each of our elementary schools and junior high schools have taken part in this rich tradition. Tonight, we celebrate the hard work of our students who excelled in their school spelling bees. Participating in this process challenges students to expand their vocabulary, sharpen their skills, and it engages them in the excitement of competition. These champions have demonstrated not only the love of words, but also determination and perseverance. Without further ado, I'm excited to announce our building spelling bee champions. I'd like to invite the board to come and stand in front, and our champions are going to be coming up to you. So we're going to walk across. Wherever you prefer, there's less wires at the stage, but we can do whatever's most comfortable. Okay. Perfect. I warned the students that the board members sometimes go rogue and they make their own plans. So we're going to walk across the floor instead of the stage. Okay. That's good. So one by one, I will call each of you up to the front of the stage. You'll walk across and shake your hands, and I will hand you your certificate. Please stay over on this side when you're done, and we'll still take our picture here. Okay, our first student is a 6th grade student from Brinkerhoff, Anna Kaplan. Next is a 4th grade student from James S. Evans, Tyler Rustenberg. Fifth grader from Fishkill Elementary, Violet Uzo. Fifth grader from Fishkill Plains, Isabella Osso. Fourth grader from Gayhead Elementary, Amelia Simmons. Fifth grader from Kinry Road, Alex Sperling. Sixth grader from Myers Corners Elementary, Amelia Chows. Sixth grader from Oak Grove Elementary, Jadine D'Souza. Sixth grader from Sheaf Road Elementary, Jacob Fareem. Eighth grader from Van Wyck Junior High School, Noah Kaplan. Eighth grader from Wapaneers Junior High School, Emilio Sagado Cordova. As all of our spellers make their way over to the left, I'll invite the board to follow them along for a picture. And a quick thank you to all the families for all the support of our students.
I'm always scared about trips in my ankle. She's like, "Don't, is that good?" Yeah, that's good. That's fine. That's great. Yeah. The lighting in here is brutal. It's terrible. Brutal. Not them into a pretty good triangle shape though.
Let's give all these students another round of applause, please. Moving right along, 5.02, 5.01, public comments on the agenda items.
None.
No one signed in, so we're going to skip the reading for public agenda. Move right on to 5.02, communications announcements received by the Board of Education. Peggy?
Yes. I had the opportunity to attend the Project Learning presentation at Gayhead Elementary School, where fourth graders use their environmental studies to create imaginative stories about mythological characters who faced environmental disasters of one sort or another. They had lovely presentations and everybody spoke, and they also signed their autographed their books for us. I also caught the candy bingo in the cafeteria at the same time. And then I attended the science fair, which was very nice, and I went around to the different students who explained their projects, and I must say the quality of our entries goes up every year, and I only wish that more students participated because it's a wonderful experience.
Thank you very much, Trustee Cullen. Trustee Johnson?
Yes, I wasn't here last time due to illness, but I wanted to acknowledge the John Jay Talent Show that was just before, it was just over 2 weeks ago, and the level of talent that was there. As always, the Irish step dancers were one of the favorites, as always, and our budding rock band that came out of the audience definitely wowed the student population and had them all cheering. And then the following day, I was able to go to the John Jay Winter Carnival, and I can't say enough about the students over at John Jay that put it together, all the different clubs, all the activities. It was absolutely outstanding what they did. Over the last week or so, we've had the Royce Ketchum girls basketball team that was able to go to sectionals. Unfortunately, they lost yesterday, heartbreakingly enough, but I want to congratulate them for such an outstanding season that they've had. Along with on Wednesday during the semi-finals down in Westchester for the Ketchum girls basketball game, halftime they had the John Jay cheerleading girls and Dylan recognized for their community service, and I just wanted to congratulate them as well because they did an amazing job.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. Trustee Nicketts, please.
There, it stayed on this time. Yes, this was my first time at the John Jay Winter Carnival, and I really enjoyed it. Trustee Johnson and I were able to have our pictures taken with the proscenium princes and princesses. Had a great time there, and caught up with the John Jay racing team and their progress on their car. I was also at the project-based learning event that Trustee Callan mentioned. It was a great program, and then I rushed over here to congratulate the students who were inducted into the RCK French Honor Society that afternoon. And I would also like to congratulate our English language learners who traveled to, some of whom traveled to Albany this past weekend and were awarded medals in a competition.
Trustee Morgan.
Thank you, President McFarland. I just wanted to acknowledge a great accomplishment by the John Jay Robotics program. Much like we talk about basketball teams, that they lose a lot of seniors, and what's the team going to look like next year? The Ketchum girls lost a lot of seniors last year and made it very far into the sectional championships. The John Jay Robotics team graduated a great number of seniors that have gone on to schools like Johns Hopkins and Stanford and lost a lot of brain power, so to speak, and here they are headed to a world championship event in Texas. So congratulations to the advisors and the John Jay Robotics Club. Similarly, I want to congratulate somebody that's up here on the stage with us and will be honored this coming summer at a Hudson Valley Renegades game. Dr. Bonk has been chosen as a community champion by the Hudson Valley Renegades and will be honored. Congratulations, Dr. Bonk.
Thank you, Trustee Morgan. I was invited to the French Honor Society new inductees. I'd just like to mention some of the new inductees that were enrolled into the French Honor Society. Angelina Carroll, Zoe Levy, Jack McCarthy, Kazalyn Odoms, and Samantha Santiago. So if we can just give them a round of applause for going into the... Yeah, they were asking me, do I speak French? I was like, not at all. Mr. Lumia, you have something?
Yeah, really, normally I'd have lots to say, but I'll be very brief. Today we received a request from the Robotics Club for some type of funding. I sincerely hope that we can find money to send them where they have to go.
Thank you, Trustee Lumia. Trustee Keller.
And insofar as the French, in the past, I gave a speech in French, and I'll tell you, it was terrible. So,
I thought you were,
thank God.
I thought you were done, Mr. Lumia.
At this point in time, Trustee Mumia.
We appreciate the candor. Thank you. You want to shut your mic off now so Trustee Cullen can have the floor?
The production of Something Rotten at Van Wyck School was really so good. They have a lot of talent going on to proscenium at John Jay.
Thank you, Trustee Cullen.
I just wanted to add, at the French Honor Society, I know Trustee Lumia usually gives a post speech, but Superintendent Lokima gave an excellent speech at the French Honor Society.
He did.
He gave us a few words in
Yes,
Spanish.
spoke some French.
Yeah, and also I attended the combination RCK John Jay string concert that was held last week. Very good.
Thank you, Trustee Owens. And thank you, Darren. Trustee Morgan.
Upcoming events on both sides of the district. There are pyramid concerts coming up where the community as well as parents will have the opportunity to hear elementary, middle school, and high school ensembles perform, and those are always really great to see. The beginners and then what they become. Our district has a tremendous music program, both in terms of strings and brass, and I just like to encourage people that may be attending this evening or watching online to get out to one of those concerts, be it here at Ketchum or over at John Jay.
Thank you again, Trustee Morgan, for the insight. Anyone else? Mr. Lumia.
I just want to remind the public, the reason we're meeting tonight at Royce Ketchum, thank you, Mr. Sipe, for allowing us to use your facilities, is because WAP Jr. is in the deep throes of getting ready for the first time performed Beetlejuice Jr. It finally got released to be able to be done, and this coming weekend is Beetlejuice, and then we also have curtains coming up shortly with John Jay and Mary Poppins for here coming up at the beginning of next month. But if you get a chance, go and see Beetlejuice this weekend because they were on PDH and they sounded amazing.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. Mr. Lumia.
Just a reminder, this Wednesday at 9:30, for students at Oak Grove, under the direction of Dr. Miller, I'm going to try to break the Guinness World Record by multiplying two numbers, 96 by 96 digit numbers. Again, Foster Elementary School kids trying to break that record. It's incredible. So I sincerely hope you'll come Wednesday at 9:30. Friday, that's going to be the ceremony to recognize these kids as well as the other students. I hope the community can come and support these kids. Thank you.
And it'll only, if they set the record, it'll only take you 25 minutes to watch them do it. So
25 minutes, I tell you right now, I'm still on the first count.
Thank you, trustees. I appreciate it. Anyone else? Thank you very much. All right, moving right along, 6.01 Superintendent's Report, Recommended Budget Presentation, number 1.
That's fine. Thank you, Ms. Dainty.
personnel versus.
One more chair. Good evening, Wappinger Central School District learning community. I would like to thank you for your attendance this evening. There will be a few presentations this evening. Before I start the recommended budget presentation, I also need to say thank you to our school social workers. Now more than ever, we need our social workers. And last week was National School Social Workers Week. So if we could have a round of applause, please, for all our social workers. We appreciate you. Thank you. So, one of the items that I'll be presenting tonight is the recommended budget number 1, building our future together. This is very, very, very preliminary. So we're going to share with you some items that we think we're going to be able to move forward on once we realize exactly what our funding will be, which hopefully will be in early April. Members of our Board of Education, President Michael McFarland, Vice President Eddie A. Slowshower, Trustee Virgil Capillari, Trustee Cheryl Niggets, Trustee Marie Johnson, Trustee John S. Morgan, Trustee Peggy Callan, Trustee Keith Odoms, and Trustee John C. Lumia. The individuals, the district office senior staff, Mr. Lokema, Assistant Superintendent for Administration and Information Systems, Dr. Cardwell, Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Dainty, Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Business Development, who I need to thank for all of your efforts in putting this together, Mr. Zip, Assistant Superintendent, Student Support Services, Ms. Harris, Executive Director of Human Resources, Mr. Broas, Director of Facilities, and Ms. Pedro, District Clerk and Secretary to the Superintendent. So to this point, we have had a number of presentations or videos. Back in November, we did the first video explaining the budget process. February the 10th, we did preliminary budget presentation 1. Then we did a video at the end of February, the video explaining the budget process. And today we're at March 10th, where we're going to present the recommended budget presentation at this point, as well as the transportation proposition presentation. Once again, the budget vote, May 20th of 2025, and I need to thank the Board of Education, the senior staff, all of our staff, and our community for sending in your suggestions and your priorities to ensure that we provide our students with the services that they both need and deserve. What was the budget based on? We've talked about this before. Our mission, core values, values and goals of the Board of Education, discussion and goals of the senior staff, and community input. And community means all of our community. We appreciate your input as we build our future together. So what are the priorities? The goal is to maximize the resources that we have to benefit our schools and community. In this budget, we will maintain our current educational programs by continuing to provide academic supports, academic enrichment opportunities. I want to talk a little bit about extracurricular activities. Any of you who have been to board meetings before notice that when the board members speak and they give reports, they talk about opportunities. They talk about extracurricular activities. They talk about more than what we do in the classroom. And certainly what we do in the classroom is paramount, but it's also our responsibility to build our students up, to build their self-esteem, and give them opportunities to identify things that they like and things that they want to be involved with, and give them an opportunity to be successful. And we need to continue now more than ever to provide those types of opportunities. Professional development is extremely important for our staff now more than ever as we continue to see the ever-changing technology that we all work with. School safety. We've shown a commitment to it. We're going to continue that commitment in this budget. We've seen the emotional and mental health concerns that our students have experienced, especially since returning from COVID. We're going to continue to provide those services.
We want to prepare today's students for tomorrow's opportunities. And they don't all require a 4-year college degree. We are involved in a number of programs along with Dutchess County BOCES, Dutchess Community College, the Council of Industry, and a number of other businesses throughout our region, in which we're working on providing training, necessary training, specifically in the area of the skilled trades. We have a P-TECH program, which is held right here in this building. It's county-wide. We have the majority of the slots. Those individuals are spending their freshman year here. They'll spend their sophomore year here. They'll go to Dutchess Community College in Fishkill for their junior year, and they'll work in the mechatronics lab, and they'll continue to do that as well as learn to be electrical technicians. And at the conclusion of 4 years, they'll have a high school diploma, and they'll also have an associate's degree. And they will be certified electricians. And we already have businesses that say, we will hire them starting at about $80,000 a year. So we need to continue to remember that our job in terms of preparing students for college remains. But not everybody is going to go on to college. And for those that don't, we need them to go right into a career where they're able to market themselves, be successful, support themselves, and raise their families within our community. So there's our continued support of career and technical education programs. And again, as I mentioned before, we're hoping to get our numbers by April 1st, although I would be surprised if we did. For those of you that aren't aware of the process, the governor comes out with a recommendation. It then gets debated in the Senate and the Assembly, and they go back and forth. And I think last year the budget was a couple weeks late, correct? So as soon as we have those numbers, we will share them with you. Special Education Initiative. Rightfully so, since we have returned from COVID, our special education population has increased by 4%. That goes to show you the types of services and programs that our students need currently. Not what they needed 4 years ago, not what they needed 10 years ago, but what they need right now. So we need to expand the array of services that we offer, which obviously means that even though our enrollment at the elementary level is growing slightly, we still need to add students for other programs that they need that we don't currently have, and in some cases, we haven't had. Expansion of the language-based programs. It's been extremely successful. I was hoping to expand it to 2 more buildings, but I just found out the other day I can only expand it to 1 because I don't have room in the other elementary school, unfortunately. This program provides students with severe reading disabilities with multi-sensory reading support, which is embedded within the core curriculum. Student ratio 15:1:1. We will add 2 additional special education teachers and 2 additional teaching assistants to support the program. Other special education needs. Based upon what we've seen to this point, we are going to need to add up to 6 elementary and secondary special education teachers, based upon what we're seeing, based on IEPs and student needs. That's going to continue. That's going to continue for a while. We're also looking to add a professional developer for special education added to assist in the ongoing training and implementation of program for WCSD teachers, as again, the programs and services continue to change. They're nothing like we've seen before. So we need to make sure that we have that professional development going on with our teachers so that they're able to deliver the programs and services needed so that those students are successful. Instruction, it's what we do. English is a new language. That program continues to expand. It will continue to expand even further. Our population continues to grow in the district. We need to add an EL teacher at Gayhead Elementary School. But guess what? After we do that, we're not able to add any more classes at that school because we don't have any room. So we don't know how long that's going to last at Gayhead. I suspect, based upon our demographics, that's going to fill up pretty quickly, and then we're going to have to make a decision as to where those students are going to go, what elementary they're going to go, school they're going to go to, because we need to offer the program to be in compliance, and we should be offering the program. We talked about career and technical education, P-TECH, teacher additions, more students coming into the field, preparing today's students for tomorrow's opportunities and tomorrow's careers. We're going to add 3 additional teachers, math, science, and technology. Now, obviously, technology you can understand in P-TECH, but not only are they learning technology, they're learning your regular math and science and everything else that all of our other students learn as well. School safety. I've mentioned this many times. We're looking to increase the presence from our local law enforcement agencies in all of our schools during the school day, and that includes all of our elementary schools. School resource officers from Dutchess County will continue to be assigned to Wappingers Junior High School and Roy C. Ketchum High School, while officers from East Fishkill will continue to be assigned to Van Wyck and John Jay throughout the school day. Additional school safety officers will be added at Roy C. Ketchum and John Jay High School. This year, we added a school safety officer at Gayhead, and we also added one at Myers Corners because we felt the need. It's worked out very well. We will continue to advocate for funding, not only from New York State, but from the federal government for safety-related costs. The issues that we see with safety, it's not a Wappingers issue. It's not a Dutchess County issue. It's not a New York State issue. It's a federal issue. So we're hoping to get some funds to be able to do that, to take that burden off of the taxpayers. Consumer Price Index, 2.95%. I believe this is the lowest CPI we've had in 4 years, correct? Okay. So we have a 2.9% CPI. Since the consumer price index exceeds 2%, the district can utilize a 2% in the tax cap formula. What does that mean? The maximum allowable tax levy increase in the Wappinger Central School District is 1.57%. 1.57%. Well, guess what? We're going to do better than that, because for the 4th consecutive year, we're going to recommend a budget to the board that comes in under that cap. We're going to recommend a budget that comes in no higher than 1.4%, and that's on the tax levy. And again, for the 4th consecutive year, that is below the tax cap. So there is your fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers while continuing to provide the necessary services and programs to our students. How did we come up with that dollar amount? We went based upon the information that we received from Governor Hochul's office as to our initial allocation, and as I mentioned, that probably will change somewhat. Once we know what that is, we'll be able to provide you with more accurate and updated information, more specific information. Fiscal responsibility. If we go back to 21-22, the tax cap was 2.49. The district went right to the tax cap, 2.49. 22-23. A very challenging year. We don't want to go back and remember 22-23, do we? It was just after COVID. Anyway. We had a tax cap increase no higher than 1.38. We came in at 0.83. We were below the cap. 23-24 went up slightly. 2.05, we came in again below the cap at 1.67. And again, This is on the property tax levy. It's not a budget to budget increase, because a budget to budget increase is inclusive of a lot of money that comes from outside the tax levy that the public votes on every year. 24-25 last year, 4.3, higher number than I think we would have liked. So what do? We decided to come in 1% less at 3.26. I think it was a wise move. I think the community does as well. This year, 1.57, coming in preliminary at 1.40. Please know that the budgets have never pierced the tax cap in the 13 years now that the state has imposed a tax cap, and for the fourth consecutive year, the budget will be below the tax cap, be at 1.17%. Let's take a look at the tax levy proposal. Last year was $190 million. This year, it's going up by $2.6 million. $2.6 million. It's going from $190 million to $192 million. That's a 1.40% change to the tax levy. I think that's fairly reasonable, especially with some of the prices that we're paying for certain items. Why are we able to do that? Because we also get 40% of our funding through grants, fund balance, which we've been very prudent in deliberately managing to a point where when we knew as a community how we wanted to spend that money, we would be able to do that. Well, now, as we know where we are and what we need, since we've come back from COVID and we've done our research and evaluation over the past 2 years, we know where to put that money. And that's what we're going to do. What is the difference between the tax levy increase and the total increase? The tax levy increase is what impacts the taxpayer, 1.40. So what we're doing this year is, my recommendation is going to be, we have money in fund balance. It's time to spend the money. Not all of it, but about 50% of the money that we have in fund balance. So my recommendation to this Board of Education is that of the fund balance we have, we take 12 million of it and we spend it on program and take it out of the tax levy. And those programs that we're going to spend it on are going to be on the same programs that everybody knows and loves and expects, and a few more, as I mentioned. Mental health, special education. Can you hear me? Safety and support, and again, instruction and career and technical education. Let's talk about fiscal responsibility, because I hear that quite a bit. As of last year, the per pupil money spent on students in Wappingers was the lowest in Dutchess County, by about $11,000, or 33% less than the district in this county that's spending the most. I think our community is getting good services for our per pupil spending, which again is the lowest in this county. So let's talk about fiscal responsibility. That's fiscal responsibility. Continue to help us build this budget. The video is on the district website. Public comment this evening, whenever, at board meetings. We love the email at budget@wcsdny.org. We're going to have some community forums coming up at each high school. We've got that website, which compares and contrasts the last 5 years, at least 5 years of budget. So if you want to go through that, you certainly have the ability to do that. As together, we work collaboratively to build our future together for all of our students. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here this evening. Yeah, I don't want to intermingle the propositions, so I want to do one, then we'll have questions, and I'll do another, and then we'll have questions and take it from there. That's okay?
Do we have any questions on the superintendent's recommended budget number one? Mr. Lumia?
First of all, I support what you said so far. Just a quick question. There are possibly 18 teachers right now that are retiring. The people that you are I assume you're going to be hiring those are they, what you said about the extra other teachers, would that be above the 18 or what?
Krista, I think you can speak to that, and the answer is yes.
Thank you, Kristen. Appreciate that. Good job.
But the answer is yes.
Thank you, Mr. Lemire. Any other questions? Mr. Morgan?
When I get done laughing, I've got a comment.
Sorry.
Dr. Bonk, thank you for the presentation, and I appreciate once again the per pupil spending, and that comparison I think is an important figure, because we are talking about large numbers, but the value that we're delivering on a per pupil basis. The other thing that I would say, and I've said it before, not only do we rank among, or this past year at the lowest in the per pupil spending, we are among the highest in graduation rates. So it's not like we're providing a bargain basement education dollar wise without delivering quality and graduating our students. But
Excellent point, Mr. Morgan. Excellent point.
every once in a while, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you. The comment that I wanted to make is I share your disappointment that the expansion of the language-based program can't be as robust as you would like. I would just encourage, even if it doesn't move the percentage of the levy to levy increase in the tenths or hundredths place, and that 1.40 stays set, I would encourage that we put that money aside in the hopes that we'll get to use it again, rather than find something else to spend it on here and now.
I am in full agreement. I certainly don't want to put something in there that unfortunately is going to happen just for the sake of putting it in and so much of a number that we can put in. Then obviously we go back and review, and hopefully we will be able to revisit the discussion, make sure we'll be able to put it in. Like I say, I want to be as fiscally responsible we all do as we possibly can. And with that, so I would agree with you. I would even go a step further, and I probably shouldn't do this, but I'll look ahead. If we do get additional money from the state, which I'm hoping, at this point in time with the budget being done in the manner that it is, I think we have everything in there to cover what we need to cover. I would look at taking potentially some of that money and potentially taking at least a portion of it and continuing to reduce the cost. So that, as I say, 1.40, I think that's the high end. It's probably going to be even less than that. So the point is well made and well. That would be a conversation that I would want to have with the board if we get additional money. We want to take that money, we want to put it in fund balance. I would not suggest that, because the budget that I'm looking to craft with the senior staff and with your support would bring our fund balance down to about 3.9%. The state suggests that we do not exceed 4%. So in my mind, it's almost a no-brainer is to take any additional monies, keep it at 397, we're just under the state requirement. It still leaves us with the money that we need to be able to utilize it in the future, and we can continue to reduce the cost.
If I could just add one piece of information to that, Dr. Bonk, so thank you very much for that information. When you spoke, you said the state recommends 4%. We receive management letter comments or a finding for anything over 4%. So again, it's more than a recommendation. It's the state's requirement to be at a maximum of 4% fund balance. Thank you.
I think I can speak to that as I have before we received that correspondence for the past 3 years. And I've been very transparent with the board and the community as to why we received it. Because there are a lot of unknowns as to where we should spend it. And we don't want to spend it for the sake of spending it and then saying that we should spend it here. Let's assess where we are, the programs and services that we need. And we've been doing that the last couple of years, and I believe we started it last year. If we continue it this year, and we'll definitely continue it next year, to be able to put it to sustain some of the programs that we all love and expect. We don't know what the fiscal reality is going to be in the next couple of years. We don't know what that is, and it's certainly not a predictor. That's why we lean on the weather forecast when I speak to the meteorologist every morning that we have inclement weather at 3:45 in the morning. Unfortunately, they're right more so than they're not, but anyway, I want to make sure that we have those monies available to attempt to sustain the programs that we've been able to put in place for the last 4 or 5 years that every our students and their families depend on. So, thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, Ms. Dingley. Anyone else? Any other questions? Moving right along to 6.02, vehicle replacement plan for the 2025-2026
Not be very long.
project.
Okay, that's up to you. She didn't even turn the mic on for me. How am I supposed to take that? Thank you, Miss Dainty. How come you didn't turn the mic on for me? Because I didn't need it? See, now she's ignoring me. Miss Dainty, this is on live stream. Is there any reason why you didn't deliberately put the microphone on for me? Oh, thank you. And there is something in the way. By the way, we do apologize for the technology this evening. As you know, at Wappingers Junior High School, we have beautiful new screens and technologies and so on and so forth. But as I think Trustee Johnson mentioned, we're here tonight because they're getting ready for a phenomenal performance. Was it Beetlejuice 2? Beetlejuice 2. All right. So we're back to the old screen. And now we're going to talk about the 25-26 transportation proposition. We've had a lot of conversations about transportation in this district, in particular over the last 5 years. And I still maintain that it is at least my goal, and I believe the goal of the Board of Education and the senior staff, to bring as much of our transportation of our students in district. And that's going to take time. I think we're halfway there from where we started. More than halfway there. So we've brought a number of routes in, but again, we're getting to a point now where we're running into capacity issues in a number of areas. So we are also, by the way, purchasing buses for the second consecutive year that are not just replacement buses. They're actual buses that are going to come in that we're going to be able to take routes that are currently being subcontracted and hand them over to our phenomenal bus drivers so that parents, you can be rest assured, hopefully in the next few years, that all of our students will be transported by Wappinger Central School District personnel. So where we are, 252 vehicles. We continue to be the largest district-owned and operated transportation department in New York State. Even though we are the 9th largest school district in New York State, all of the districts that are larger than ours subcontracts these services. We want to expand the amount of transportation that we provide to our students, which I believe is probably somewhere in the realm of 80% of our students. 82%.
Yes, 82 to 85.
That's great. I'll take it. We got to get it to 100, and we'll get there eventually. So of the 252 vehicles, 154 of those beautiful big yellow buses. We have 83 vans. We have 7 Suburbans, and then we have 8 wheelchair vans. Factors to consider. Safety and fleet age. Obviously, we need to provide safe transportation for our students. They must function properly and meet all of the Department of Transportation requirements from New York State. We need to make sure that we have qualified personnel, which includes our bus driver training program, which I believe we started 3 years ago. 4. Thank you for the clarification. 4 years ago. Fiscally diligent. We mentioned that before. We've got to keep the vehicle maintenance costs stable for our taxpayers. And how do we do that? It's just like a car that you take to the garage to get fixed. If you don't take your car in to get the oil changed and get whatever you need to get done every 3 months, and you wait 2 years or 3 years when your car doesn't start, it's going to cost you much more money, and you're going to be inconvenienced because you're probably not going to be able to use your car for a while. So we continue to do that. Our preventative maintenance. Aging fleets, as you can imagine, have significantly higher maintenance and related labor costs. And as I mentioned, we continue to use transportation as needed. And we are to a point where we have begun a very, very robust recruitment program, right, Executive Director Harris? For bus drivers to make sure that when we get the new buses in, we actually have people to drive them. So this is a concentrated effort that we continue to work on. Enrollment. Shifting enrollment, evolving student needs. So we've had, to some degree, declining enrollment in the secondary schools. Our elementary enrollment has grown ever so slightly. And that is expected to continue ever so slightly for the next 3 years. The fleet continues to be adjusted to the proper ratio. And again, you live in the Wappinger Central School District, you live right down the street from your school, you're eligible for district transportation. That's something that I'm very proud of, and that's something that's been in place for a long time. I think we all know that our schools, when they were built, our newest one built in 1969, they weren't necessarily built with enough parking or a transportation grid to be able to handle the amount of cars that we see at our schools on a daily basis. So that's why that's in there. Mandates and requirements from New York State. Different types of vehicles needed as well as replacements. I can tell you that as our special needs population increases and our out-of-district placements increase in the area of special needs students, based upon some of the needs, that means fewer individuals going to many more places from as far away as Sullivan County on a daily basis, because we don't necessarily offer those types of programs at this point yet, which means that we have maybe 1, 2, 3 individuals on a van. Would you say that's true?
We have several vehicles that have one student.
And we have several that have one because of the distance. Because if we wanted to put 2 or 3, we'd be out of compliance because we'd have a student on a bus potentially for 2 hours a day, which we would never do. That requires, again, more buses, more routes, more drivers. Electric buses, New York State compliance, we're still evaluating that. So there comes a time when a bus has to retire, even though it may not want to, and be replaced. That generally happens with about 126,000 miles. I think that's a pretty good run, 126,000 miles. Or a 2009 model, which was 16 years ago, a 2012 or 2013, they get extensive body wear. especially from the amount of salt that needs to be put on the roads here during the icy conditions of our winters. You also have emission controls that we need to meet. So based upon that, 12 new vehicles are going to be replaced, are going to be purchased to replace those vehicles that are going to retire. In addition to that, we're going to add 9 new vehicles. The net increase in vehicles will address that shifting enrollment and the continuous involvement of student needs. If approved, our anticipated fleet will increase to 261 vehicles. 8 of those are passenger 71 student diesel buses, come out about just under 1.4 million. 4 of those are SUVs for student transport, gasoline. Now those need to be painted yellow and they need to have the proper signs as well as
Cameras.
Pardon me?
Cameras.
The cameras as well.
They may not be painted yellow, but they'll definitely have those, the proper signs and everything and lettered on the sides.
How many students can they have?
They can fit up to 2 students with a monitor.
2 with a monitor. Are you taking notes? Or are you multiplying 96? Better you than me. 20 passenger vans. Those are gasoline. Comes out to a little under $500,000. And then we have 21 passenger wheelchair vans, gasoline. That's just over $350 million. Comes out to just over $2.5 million. District uses aidable 5-year revolving bands or bond anticipation notes to finance the purchase of school vehicles. Including a bus proposition on the ballot allows for consistency and budgeting for the related principal payments in the general fund, as only the change in proposition amount is adjusted in the general fund budget. How'd I do with that, Ms. Dainty?
Pretty good.
Okay.
Now here's the big part at the end. It's a $42,000 savings from last year. I stole your thunder.
And with that, the 25-26 bus purchase proposition would result in a net cost of approximately $42,400 starting in the 26-27 school year, which is less. It's actually gone down by $5,027 than the 24-25 year for bus van payments. So we are very proud of the bus proposition. We are very proud of the preliminary budget. We look forward to addressing our community and continuing to receive input from you as to what you as a community believe are the critical programs and services that your children and our students need and deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Superintendent Bond.
Ron, did you take care of that? Everything okay?
Okay, turn the heat up in your office.
Open for discussion now. Discussion on the vehicle replacement plan. Trustee Johnson.
It's really not a question.
Well,
I go
that's
over
what
this
this is
every-
open for, questions.
We go over this every year, just so everyone is aware. The bus proposition roughly is about the same amount every year. This year, it's a $42,000 savings. Kudos to that. But basically, the way it runs is every year one falls off, we add one on. They fluctuate anywhere up or down around $100,000 usually over the years. So the payment stays steady within our budget. So even though we're replacing every year, we're not really changing our budget line item by very much every year. It's very, very minimal. It stays pretty much relatively the same, and this way we can keep the vehicles up to date.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. Trustee Caballero.
Dr. Bond, this is Superintendent Dainty. First of all, this is an outstanding presentation. Money managed to be saved at a time when costs are increasing across the board, especially for vehicles. I think a point that should really be emphasized over and over again is the size of this district. Second, I do believe that you should all be commended, this district, because the more we can bring back services, transportation, where we have the direct control over them, rather than second and third party contracts, I think is a net benefit across the board. We want our folks transporting our community. So just want to say excellent job on that, because it's not easy.
Thank you, Trustee Caballero. Trustee Morgan.
Just to echo what Trustee Capillari just said, the size of the district is approximately somewhere between 100 and 110.
95 square miles.
95 square miles?
Yes, sir.
But
95.
95?
I believe it's higher. Yeah, I saw somewhere around 110 square miles, but anyway, somewhere between 90.
So it's a large area with some remote students to pick up, just to go by the size comment. Additionally, I just want to clarify that when you say net benefit of our folks transporting our students, we're really talking about a bottom line benefit, because fiscally, we will save money for the district and for our taxpayers. The more, so when people hear, oh, you're adding to the number of buses, you're increasing the infrastructure. Yes, we're increasing the infrastructure in order to reduce payments to an outside vendor, and Assistant Superintendent Dainty would be able to tell us exactly how many runs those 9 buses will bring back into the district, but that will result in net savings in addition to the accountability and the training that our own staff excels at as compared to an outside vendor. And I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, so that nobody that's watching and listening tonight says, oh, geez, why are they buying more buses than what they're replacing? It's in order to, over the long run, operationally save money.
Thank you. Thank you. Good point, Trustee Morgan. Trustee Miggets.
Yes.
First, I'd like to make a motion to extend discussion for 5 minutes because Mrs. Pedro has held up the warning sign.
All in favor?
And my question is, I want to clarify for the voters, Mrs. Dainty, because I know that people ask me this all the time. The money that's allocated on the bus proposition, if it's approved, it is not a figure that the taxpayers are going to have to pay in addition to the regular tax levy. Because is it correct that as the bonds come on to and are instituted and as they're paid off, that's all incorporated in the regular budget, which we are keeping below the tax cap?
That is absolutely accurate. We have a revolving bus ban, which maintains that level of payment from one year to the next. That's why we tried to keep it as level as possible. Thank you.
Excellent point. Thank you. I'm sorry, Trustee Kellum.
Yes, I think the most important thing of trying to take our roots back in district is not so much the money, although of course any savings is beneficial, but the safety consideration that we know what drivers are driving. We have supervision over them. They get our training, and the community can feel confident that their children are on buses that we have approved and are supervising.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. All right. 6.03, approval of transportation proposition.
Resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District authorizes the submission of the following proposition for the qualified voters of the district to vote on at the annual district meeting, budget vote, and election to be held on May 20th, 2025. Shall the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District, Putnam and Dutchess Counties, New York District be authorized to purchase student transportation vehicles, including incidental expenses incurred therewith at a maximum estimated sum of $2,660,038, and said amount or so such thereof as shall be necessary shall be raised by the levy of a tax upon the taxable property of the district and collected in annual installments as provided by law, and in anticipation of such tax obligations of the district shall be issued.
Motion, Marie Johnson, second, Peggy Kellen. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Seven point oh one, consent agenda resolutions. Anybody want to remove anything from the consent agenda? No, I see nothing.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the following consent agenda items as stated: 7.02, 7.03, 7.04, 7.05, 7.06, 7.07, 7.08, 7.09, 7.10, 7.11, and 7.12.
Motion, Peggy Kellen, second by Marie Johnson. All in favor? Any opposed? So moved. New business? Okay, moving right along to 8.01, approval of the new club charter, RCK Science National Honor Society.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the new club charter for the Science National Honor Society at Roy C. Ketchum High School as submitted.
Motion. Trustee Morgan, second by Trustee Caballero. All in favor? Aye, unanimous. 8.02, approval of new club charter, AV Club John Jay.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the new club charter for the Audiovisual Club at John Jay High School as submitted.
Motion. Trustee Morgan, second by Trustee Kellen. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. 8.03, approval of renaming of club new logo, WAP Junior High School Drama Club.
That's either you'll help me with French or Darren can help me with French on this one. Okay, that's true. Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the renaming of the Wappingers Drama Club to the Tableau Theater Collective at the Wappingers Junior High School, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the new mark representing the Tableau Theater Collective, TTC, created by a student and recommended by Principal Thompson as submitted.
Motion. Marie Johnson, second by Trustee Kellen. All in favor? All in favor, Mr. Lumia? Unanimous. Thank you. 8.04, nomination of BOCES Board of Education.
So we're doing nominees first. I forgot how we normally do this. Ms. Pedro, I'm sorry.
Somebody can make a nomination, make a second, and then you read the resolution with the name.
Right, we have to read, okay.
How many are we supposed to read? As many as you want. This time, as many as you want, you're not voting.
Right.
You can nominate if you want.
Trustee Morgan. Mr. Caballari seconded, it was Mr. Lumia that presented it. All in favor? Aye, unanimous, thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Lumia? Second by Peggy Kellen.
Who did you nominate?
Rob Cimentro.
Where's that?
Ralph. Oh. No, you said, you did not say Ralph. So Ralph Cimento. Did you? Okay, I apologize. So Ralph Cimento. Second, Mr. Morgan. All in favor? Aye, unanimous. Any other nominations? Marie Johnson,
Mark Flashhauser. Fleshhauser. Yeah, I don't have the glasses on.
Mark Fleischauer was nominated, second by Peggy Kellen. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Any other nominees? I see none.
Resolved that the Wappinger Central School District Board of Education does hereby nominate Mr. Ralph Tremento, Mr. Gully Sanford, and Mr. Mark Fleischhauser. Fleischhauer. I can't say that name. Maybe more than one. Recommend voting on each nomination separately, which we've done, to serve on the Board of Education of the Dutchess County Board of Cooperative Educational Services. Motion.
Motion, Mr. Morgan, second by Mr. Caballero. All in favor? I have a problem with names tonight. Unanimous. Yeah, 8.05, approval of change order 2023 district-wide renovations, Phase 2, Wap Junior High School main garage.
Resolved that the Board of Education approve change order GW.2-001 at a total cost of $121,367.23 as per memo dated February 20th, 2025, from the school district's architect to the Director of Facilities and Operations as recommended by the Superintendent of Schools.
Motion. Marie Johnson, second by Peggy Kellen. All in favor? Unanimous. 8.06, negative declaration resolution, John Jay Capital Project.
Whereas the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District Board or District is considering undertaking a proposed capital improvement project involving significant renovations and upgrades to John Jay Senior High School, including alterations and renovations to existing interior spaces and electrical and mechanical systems, building envelope improvements and exterior improvements, including addition of athletic field lighting, conversion of an existing natural turf field into synthetic turf, renovations to the press box, concessions building, and new parking for approximately 85 cars. The proposed action, and whereas the proposed action is subject to review under the State Environmental Quality Review Act and the regulations promulgated thereunder, SEQA 6 NYCRR Part 617, and whereas the board, in accordance with SEQA, having classified the proposed action as an unlisted action and having declared its intent to serve as lead agency for the coordinated review of the proposed action, circulated Part 1 of the full full environmental assessment form, FEAF, and other supporting documentation to all known involved interested agencies and afforded the agencies 30 calendar days to respond. And whereas, having received no objection to the board being declared lead agency after circulating Part 1 of the FEAF and other supporting documentation to the identified potential involved interested agencies, the board is declared the lead agency for the coordinated review of the proposed action under SEQRA. And whereas the board has considered the information and documentation describing the proposed action and its impacts on the environment in parts 1 and 2 of the FEAF and the supporting documentation collectively annexed hereto as Exhibit A and made to part hereof. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District 1 adopts the findings, conclusions, and rationale related to the probable environmental impacts of the proposed action contained within parts 1 and 2 of the FEAF and the supporting documentation incorporated by reference into the FEAF, and 2, officially makes a determination of non-significance negative declaration in that the proposed action will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment, and that the preparation of an environmental impact statement will not be required for the reasons set forth in parts 1 and 2 and the FEAF and the supporting documentation. And 3, directs the district's consultant to circulate a copy of the notice of this determination of non-significance to the potentially involved and interested agencies to file and publish a negative declaration in the Environmental Notice Bulletin, ENB, in accordance with 6 NYCRR 617.12.
Yeah, one more time, Ed.
I'm going to go 3 times.
Motion. Trustee Johnson, second by,
Promulgate, remind me.
anyone second the motion?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, discussion on this? All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. One more time, Ed. 8.07, negative declaration resolution for RCK capital project.
Okay, same thing, just substitute now RCK. Okay, how's that? A motion?
Is it gonna work out, Berta? No, it's not.
It ain't gonna work.
No, it's not.
I tried. Whereas the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District, board or district, is considering undertaking a proposed capital improvement project involving significant renovations and upgrades to Roy C. Ketchum High School campus, including alterations and renovations to existing interior spaces and electrical mechanical systems, building envelope improvements.
8.08 is the band vote.
And reading 807.
807.
Our mistake on this side of the table. We apologize.
I'm doing high schools first. That's all right.
We apologize.
I'm doing high schools first and then junior highs.
He just wants to hear.
He just wants to hear him read it again, right?
Sorry I broke up your rhythm. We were trying to help.
Now I lost my place.
Start from the beginning again.
What's the playback? Where did I leave off? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Existing interior spaces and electrical mechanical systems, building envelope improvements and exterior improvements, including addition of athletic field lighting, conversion of existing natural turf fields into synthetic turf, and 8 new tennis courts. The proposed action, and whereas the proposed action is subject to review under the State Environmental Quality Review Act and the regulations promulgated. Thank you, Ms. Cowan. Thereafter, SEQRA 6 NYCRR Part 617, and whereas the board, in accordance with SEQRA, having classified the proposed action as an unlisted action and having declared its intent to serve as lead agency for the coordinated review of the proposed action, circulated Part 1 of the full environmental assessment form, FEAF, and other supporting supporting documentation to all known involved interested agencies and afforded the agencies 30 calendar days to respond. And whereas, having received no objection to the board being declared lead agency after circulating Part 1 of the FEAF and other supporting documentation to the identified potential involved interested agencies, the board is declared the lead agency for the coordinated review of the proposed action under SECRA. And whereas the board has considered the information and documentation describing the proposed action as it impacts on the environment in parts 1 and 2 of the FEAF and the supporting documentation collectively annexed hereto as Exhibit A and made a part hereof now. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District 1 adopts the findings, conclusions, and rationale related to the probable environmental impacts of the proposed action contained within parts 1 and 2 of the FEAF and the supporting documentation incorporated by reference into the FEAF, and 2, officially makes a determination of non-significance, negative declaration in that the proposed action will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment and that the preparation of an environmental impact statement will not be required for the reasons set forth in parts 1 and 2 of the FEAF and the supporting documentation, and 3, directs the district's consultant to circulate a copy of the notice of this determination of non-significance to the potentially involved and interested agencies and to file and publish a negative declaration in the Environmental Notice Bulletin, ENB, in accordance with 6 NYCRR 617.12.
Motion, Marie Johnson, second by Mr. Keith Odoms. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving right along to 8.08, negative declaration resolution, Van Wyck Junior High School capital projects.
I tell you, mystery reader this morning was a lot easier. Promulgate was not. It's all right. Trustee Callan will correct me again. Whereas the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District Board or District is considering undertaking a proposed capital improvement project involving significant renovations and upgrades to Van Wyck Junior High School campus, including classroom and cafeteria building additions of approximately 25,000 square feet, alterations and renovations of existing interior spaces and electrical mechanical systems, building envelope improvements and exterior improvements, including pavement replacements, athletic upgrades, and installation of athletic field lighting and minor associated site work. The proposed action, and whereas the proposed action is subject to review under the State Environmental Quality Review Act and the regulations promulgated thereunder. Where are these spelling kids? Can I bring them back? Get them back here to read this. They're under Secret 6 NYCRR Part 617, and whereas the board, in accordance with SECRA, having classified the proposed action as an unlisted action and having declared its intent to serve as lead agency for the coordinated review of the proposed action, circulated Part 1 of the full environmental assessment form, FEAF, and other supporting documentation to all known involved interested agencies and afforded the agencies 30 calendar days to respond. And whereas, having received no objection to the board being declared lead agency after circulating Part 1 of the FEAF and other supporting documentation to the identified potential involved interested agencies, the board is declared the lead agency for the coordinated review of the proposed action under SECRA. And whereas, the board has considered the information and documentation describing the proposed action and its impacts on the environment in parts 1 and 2 of the FEAF and the supporting documentation collectively annexed hereto as Exhibit A and made a part thereof. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District, 1, adopts the findings, conclusions, and rationale related to the probable environmental impacts of the proposed action contained within parts 1 and 2 of the FEAF and the supporting documentation incorporated by reference in the FEAF, and 2, officially makes a determination of non-significance. Negative declaration is that the proposed action will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment and that the preparation of the environmental impact statement will not be required for the reasons set forth in parts 1 and 2 of the FEAF and the supporting documentation, and 3, directs the district's consultant to circulate a copy of the notice of this determination of non-significance to the potentially involved and interested agencies and to file and publish a negative declaration in the Environmental Notice Bulletin, ENB, in accordance with 6 NYCRR 617.12.
Motion, Marie Johnson, second. Trustee Morgan, any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. One more time. 8.09, negative declaration resolution, Wappinger Junior High School capital project.
Whereas the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District, board or district, is considering undertaking a proposed capital improvement project involving significant renovations and upgrades to the Wappinger Junior High School campus, including classroom, small gymnasium, technology and cafeteria building additions of approximately 35,000 square feet, alterations and renovations of existing interior spaces and electrical mechanical systems, building envelope improvements and exterior improvements, including pavement replacements, athletic upgrades and installation of athletic field lighting, a press box concession stand, and minor associated site work. The proposed action, and whereas the proposed action is subject to review under the State Environmental Quality Review Act and the regulations. Everyone all together? Promulgated, thank you. Good team effort. Thereunder, Secra 6, NYCRR, Part 617, and whereas the board, in accordance with Secra, having classified the proposed action as an unlisted action and having declared its intent to serve as lead agency for the coordinated review of the proposed action, circulated Part 1 of the full environmental assessment form, FEAF, and other supporting documentation to all known involved interested agencies and afforded the agencies 30 calendar days to respond, and whereas having received no objection to the board being declared lead agency after circulating Part 1 of the FEAF and other supporting documentation to the identified potential involved interested agencies, the board is declared the lead agency for the coordinated review of the proposed action under SEQRA. And whereas the board has considered the information and documentation describing the proposed action and its impacts on the environment in parts 1 and 2 of the FEAF and the supporting documentation collectively annexed hereto as Exhibit A and made part hereof. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District 1 adopts the findings, conclusions, and rationale relating to the probable environmental impacts of the proposed action contained within parts 1 and 2 of the FEAF and the supporting documentation incorporated by reference into the FEAF, and 2, officially makes a determination of non-significance negative declaration in that the proposed action will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment and that the preparation of an environmental impact statement will not be required for the reasons set forth in parts 1 and 2 of the FEAF and the supporting documentation, and 3, directs the district's consultant to circulate a copy of the notice of this determination of non-significance to the potentially involved and interested agencies and to file and publish a negative declaration in the Environmental Notice Bulletin, ENB, in accordance with 6 NYCRR 617.12.
Do I have a motion? Trustee Johnson. Mr. Lumi, a second. Any discussion? Peggy Kellen has some discussion.
Yeah. Well, just a question. Since the one of the neighboring properties has suffered flooding from past construction projects at this building, has it been carefully assessed whether or not there will be any danger of flooding in this case? Oh, well, the neighboring property has had flooding in the past and has attributed it to construction at the Wappingers Junior High. Has that issue been studied as to whether or not it will be another effect against adverse effect on the neighboring property?
I believe we settled that when we did the construction and we made improvements.
Yeah, well, this additional project,
This would not
okay, because I know groundwater can be pretty tricky.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Johnson?
I think I understand where you're going. Are you talking about the flooding in the fields over at WAP Junior, the main fields, how they flood out really badly?
Well, we've had that situation too, but I was speaking.
Because that's actually the village drainage system that collapsed that's causing those.
Yes, I know,
those issues.
but what I was speaking of was the residential property next door near the parking garage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan?
If this assuades you any further, Trustee Kellen, from my understanding of the project that we've reviewed, the construction is going to be on the opposite side of the property. And groundwater concerns are, just as you said, tricky, but hopefully the impact that you're addressing, because it's on the opposite side of the property, as I understand it, will mitigate any impacts, as well as the previous improvements that were done.
Yeah, yeah. I realize it's at the other side, but since the rock formations in this area are very irregular, groundwater can show up in quite a distance away, and I was wondering if it had been assessed.
Yes, it has.
All right, thank
Based
you.
on Mr. Burrows, it has been assessed. So any other discussion on this? Do we have a motion? Oh, no, we didn't vote yet. That was a discussion. All right. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Unanimous? 8.10, resolution to declare type 2 action elementary school capital projects.
Whereas the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District proposes a capital improvement project consisting of renovations and construction of improvements to the Brinkerhoff Elementary School, Fishkill Elementary School, Fishkill Plains Elementary School, Gayhead Elementary School, James Evans Elementary School, Kinry Elementary School, Myers Corner Elementary School, Oak Grove Elementary School, Sheaf Road Elementary School, Vassar Road Elementary School, and Wappingers District service buildings, including but not limited to parking lot and sidewalk reconstruction, brick repointing, roof and ceiling replacements, stair and ramp modifications, electric panel and fire alarm replacements, HVAC system upgrades, new plumbing fixtures, a kitchen hood installation, and ADA compliant renovations such as toilet room updates, stage lifts, and an elevator installation, and incidental improvements and expenses in connection therewith. Proposed action, and whereas said improvements are subject to classification under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQRA, and whereas the proposed action constitutes a replacement, rehabilitation, or reconstruction of existing facilities that qualifies as a Type 2 action set forth in 6 NYCRR Part 617.5 And whereas the board has considered the information and documentation which describes the design and intent of the proposed action, now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District, based upon the record before it, including the general, specific, and detailed knowledge of the board of the proposed action and under the applicable standards of SECRA and 6 NYCRR, Part 617.5, hereby determines that A, the proposed action is classified as a Type 2 action, and B, in accordance with Article 8 of the New York State Environmental Conservation Law, the board is not obligated to conduct any further environmental review of the proposed action.
Motion, Marie Johnson. Second, Peggy Kellen. Any discussion? Vote, all in favor? Aye. So moved. 8.11, approval of capital project improvement proposition.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District, Dutchess and Putnam Counties, New York, as follows. Section 1. The proposition hereinafter set forth is hereby authorized to be submitted for approval of the qualified voters at the annual school district meeting and election to be held in said school district on May 20th, 2025. Section 2. The school district clerk is hereby authorized and directed to include as part of the notice of the annual district meeting and election notice with reference to the submission of said proposition is substantially the following form. Notice is hereby further given that at said annual district meeting and election to be held on May 20th, 2025, the following proposition will be submitted. Capital improvements proposition. Capital improvements to school district buildings and facilities. Shall the following resolution be adopted to wit? Resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District, Dutchess and Putnam Counties, New York, is hereby authorized to construct improvements and additions to and reconstruct school district buildings and facilities, including original furnishings, equipment, machinery, apparatus, and another SAT word. Appurtenances. I got to talk to these attorneys.
Yeah.
Together with site and athletic field improvements and other incidental improvements and expenses in connections therewith at a maximum estimated cost of $153,768,000, and that said amount or so much thereof as may be necessary shall be raised by the levy of a tax upon the taxable property of said school district and collected in annual installments as provided by Section 416 of the Educational Law, and in anticipation of such tax, obligations of such school district shall be issued. Now, the school district has determined the capital project has components which are an unlisted action, as well as components which are a Type 2 action pursuant to 6 NYCRR Part 617.5C, number 1, 2, and 10, formerly 8, of the regulations of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Again, we're promulgated. Promulgated. I like promulgated. That sounds much better. Pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, the implementation of which, as proposed, the school district has determined will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. SECRA compliance materials are on file in the office of the school district clerk, where they may be inspected during regular office hours upon appointment. Section 3. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
Do I have a motion? Marie Johnson, second. Eddie Solshower, sorry about that. Discussion? Marie Johnson?
I'm going to try and be really read this as quickly as possible. Dr. Bach, members of the Board of Education, and the entire Wappinger Central School District community. Over the last few weeks and even months, I have been a vocal person regarding this capital project. I want to clarify a few things. I started on the capital committee back in 2016 as a community member. Over the last 9 years, I have seen 2 building condition surveys done. I have seen costs increase to have these repairs done. The first one I saw was about 90 million, and we have barely chipped away at it at times. Each year, more items can be added. Those repairs won't show classrooms that are out of date to accommodate the newer curriculum that we do or the newer programs we have started. We just tell our administrators, staff, we need to make the space work. As the Board of Education, we are tasked with building and condition tours each year. We, the board, are supposed to report to the community what we observe. When I joined the board 6 years ago, everyone went. COVID hit, and we still went in smaller groups, but we completed the tours. Since then, less and less members are able to go, basically because of real life work and experiences. Over the last 2 years, only 2 board members, myself and President McFarland, actually completed all 15 buildings. I understand our real life work impacts attendance. However, I have my little black book right here. I have been keeping each year in every single building. When we get there, the head custodian always greets me with new lists of issues that have come up. We check off things that have been done, etc. Yes, it's a running joke between Dr. Bonk and myself about my little black book, but it has come in handy. When the Capital Committee meets starting 2 years ago to get this project proposal started, we looked at my famous book and we looked at the condition surveys. We had directors of different departments in to discuss needs and challenges. We had had several conversations with senior staffs, principals, athletics, teachers, coaches, and custodial staff many times during these building tours. During these tours, we should not be concerned with the curriculum programs and how they're doing unless it is regarding the needs of repairs to the spaces or adding classrooms and building, which the discussion has happened at lunch on the building tours over the last 3 years about moving the 6th grade into the middle school and having the new construction planned. Now, one thing that keeps coming up is the money and the taxes. This project, if approved in May, is not going to be in your taxes next year. That seems to be a very big thing. We do not have this added to our taxes until it's fully bonded, which the size of this project, we're looking at about 7 years before it truly hits our taxes. Also, the way it works is that we can only go up to the amount voted on by the taxpayers. Over the years, when we have saved or come in under budget, we find other things that need to be repaired because there's always things that need to be repaired. We've never left money on the table because there's always something. I can say not that we would be in the case that this would happen in this project. Cost to repair and build will never go down. This district has kicked the can before, and that is why these buildings need so much work. The last time a project was split up was back in 2008, and it failed. We didn't get another one until 2012. There was a lot of years in between that things continued to degrade. So if you want to split it, do we include the cafeteria at Van Wyck in a must-do since the school has 800 students and a cafeteria about the size of the smaller cafeteria at either Myers or Gayhead, which both have 2 cafeterias? What about the fact that we have to keep the band and music in the auditorium at Wappingers Junior High School because now we can't have special assemblies because we're using it as an instructional space? Or the tech rooms that are needed to do our expanding of the programs that we have talked about earlier this evening that we are doing with the CTI and more. So we're just going to have the 2 small wings, the 2 middle schools as a separate prop. Now, for whatever reason, that small one, not sure, thinking it's going to be about 25 million if we try to separate it, is the only one one that gets approved. Well, guess what? We can only build those 2 new additions. So the boiler at Vassar that is 35, 40 years old that must get done will no longer possibly work before we can get another one passed, and there's no heat. Or the steam pipes that have been repaired over and over at Van Wyck, which is the rest of the building that can't be patched anymore. Or the roof on our second oldest building finally can't be patched up over at WAP Junior. Or the many skylights at several of our elementary schools that are constantly leaking and needing repairs. Or how about the LGI rooms that we go to for different honor societies, and half the seats are broken. They're not even there able to be seated in. The ceilings in every building, the splines, they need to be fixed. Half of them, we can't even get the ceiling tiles for those size tiles any longer. We talk about the 33 classrooms we could free up that can expand our pre-K in our buildings. It can add more ICT settings. We could bring back about 60 self-contained students at a savings of about $4.5 million each year, if not more. That cost goes up every year. We would be saving on that $25 million addition that we're talking about, adding into the whole thing. A reimbursable rate of 53 cents on the dollar would be paid. And after 4 years of the savings of bringing those special ed students back in district, we could actually pay for that. Not to mention, we have roughly 700 plus private and parochial students that we actually take care of and getting them to their schools every day. We have the transportation of hundreds of pre-K that could be in our buildings, and for those with special needs, we can provide it in a more controlled setting with all of our providers. This won't be a hit for a couple of years down the road, but with over 11,000 kids that I promise to do my best, I know much sooner they will feel the effects of this. Or the 2,000 plus staff that we promise to make sure they have a safe work environment. Well, the tens of thousands of the community members that we said we would make sure their investment, our students and our facilities, are well cared for and maintained. None of us know what will happen in 7 years, next year, or even tomorrow. But we cannot afford to stop trying for our community for a fear of what ifs. My crystal ball is broken, but I believe this administration and committee has done a lot of work and max effort to make sure that we did the most responsible thing possible bringing this forward. It was 2 years of hard work and dedication, and we could easily have added another $100 million in repairs. So I hope you will consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Mr. Lumia.
I understand the well-intentioned desire of our superintendent to have additional programs for our increased special education population, as well as the projected programs needed for the increase of the ENL population. Again, I repeat, I understand the well-intentioned desire of our superintendent to have additional programs for our increased special education student population, as well as projected programs needed by the increase in the ENL population. At the same time, as a board member, I must be mindful not only the needs of our present students, but whether our community, even though our student expenditure is less than any other district, can afford it. In order for the district to come under the tax cap, our superintendent recommended that we use almost $12 million from our fund balance so we come up under the tax cap. I'm glad that we are fortunate to have such a fund balance thanks to the premium holiday provided by DEIC and also savings from COVID money that was wisely set aside from our superintendent. How long will DEIC provide premium holidays, and is there any other COVID money still available? Now that we have stay compliant with the fund balance, using further fund balance might be a problem next year when the budget will probably be approximately $241 million. For the next 5 years, we'll be approaching school budgets close to $400 million. I want each of us to think about the following questions. Can we assume that the state will continue increasing state funding at the same rate? Can we assume that the state will continue giving us 53 cents on the dollar for building reimbursement? What happens to taxpayers such as veterans, seniors who might be struggling to pay for these school taxes? What happens to school taxes if the STOP program is no longer affordable to the state? Lastly, what happens to the school district enrollment if the federal government decides on giving vouchers to be used for private schools? Now we have one capital project proposition to vote on a present cost of approximately $153 million, of which approximately $73 million to add a total of 28 classrooms at the 2 junior high schools. Does anybody on this table actually believe that the cost of the 2 addition will be only $73 million 3 years from now, especially when the tariffs go into effect? When I got on the board 17 years ago, enrollment was close to 13,000 students, and we were able to service our students with existing facilities. Today, enrollment is 10,500. As indicated from the 2024-25 Comprehensive Long-Range Study Plan, enrollment by 2034 will be less than 10,000. Since 2008, we've almost had 2,500 less students. How can we ask the community to approve adding 28 classrooms by building both the junior high schools with an additional cost of approximately $73 million? As I already stated, does any... Well, I'd like to make a motion to extend the meeting of 10 minutes.
Second.
As I already stated, does anybody, all in favor?
You vote on extending the time, 10 minutes additional time. All in favor?
As I already stated, does anybody think that this will actually cost 3 years from now? We have been told there will be significant building on the southern tier, which will increase enrollment significantly. If and when this happens, by how much will enrollment increase at the elementary level? As already been stated by the long-range planning study, by 2034, elementary as well as overall district enrollment will be less than 10,000. Now, at the last meeting, Trustee Schlosshauer and Mr. Zip made reference that if we bring back some of our students from outside programs, we would experience savings. First of all, how many additional teachers must be hired that are well-trained to provide services to those students that we send out to get special services? Moreover, will there be real savings in the long run as salaries and benefits increase? There's some of us who think that we have money now. Why not use that money for student programs now, and why worry about what the future may bring? In my personal life, do we plan for rainy days, or we just live for the moment? There's no one sitting on this stage who does not want what is best for our students. However, must we also be concerned for those that the school district must rely for school taxes? As board members, we must think what must happen in the long run and not just think what is good for the present. As I already stated, I believe the taxpayers should be given 2 propositions. It is our taxpayers and none of us who should decide, because all taxpayers will ultimately must pay the bills. I move that the resolution read by Eddie be amended into 2 propositions with the amounts determined as follows. 1 proposition which deals with the must-do projects as identified by the Capital Improvement Committee. One of those projects should also include the field house at John Jay. A 2nd proposition to include the additions at the 2 junior high schools, as well as construction of turf fields and other items identified by the Capital Improvement Committee. I hope there's a second to that, and I further discussion.
I second it.
Should we have a motion to make 2 individual proposals
Yes.
to amend the motion?
Yes.
I make the motion.
John
Second.
Lumia, Peggy Kellen, second.
In discussion.
Any discussion on it?
If I may,
Mr. Caballero?
it's an interesting position to propose two different propositions. Sorry about that. The points are salient as far as all of this maybe being lumped under one giant proposition may not be the best, and I kind of leave that open. It can go either way. We do have to be cognizant of the taxpayers, because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. I do believe Trustee Lumia when he says that we're all here with the best interest of the students in mind. I think it would be a disservice to the community at large, including the schools and all of us, if we didn't at least have this discussion further. So I'd be remiss if I didn't emphasize that point, because time is of the essence.
Thank you, Trustee. Thank you, Trustee Caballero.
Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Kellen.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to explain my second of Mr. Lumia's proposal to break it into two propositions. In my 11 years on the board, I have supported every single budget and proposition set forth by the superintendent. I realize that Dr. Bonk sincerely believes that this would be a good thing for the district. However, we don't know in the next 10 years whether they will build any of these developments that have been proposed. Predictions for the district population in the past have been very frequently not what was predicted. I remember when they closed Kinry Road School, and 3 years later they had to reopen it. We had cutbacks with IBM. We really don't know the future. They say we'll have more students, but there are several reasons why I doubt that. I can't say one way or the other, but there's a lot of doubt to that. First of all, the trend now with businesses is to call back people to work in office rather than commute and work from home. The southern part of the district has a number of people who moved there during the pandemic because they could work from home. If they have to do an hour and a half commute, they might well change. At least if they don't move back, at least fewer people will be moving up. Also, the federal government is cracking down on illegal immigration. I don't know how many of the increased population of English language learners is not documented, but probably at least some of them are. Also, we won't be getting the influx of as many new immigrants as we did before. Finally, the economy right now is very shaky. Reading on the internet from responsible economic people like The Economist and the Wall Street Journal and several others, they're predicting inflation of greater than we had before. The 2.9% inflation right now is likely to go up, especially with the tariffs. That will mean that the housing costs will increase, and there will probably be these proposed plans. They often submit them to planning boards, but then the projects don't get built if it turns out to be uneconomic. Also, our construction costs in this proposal will go up. So we might well wind up, as we did with the last proposition, not being able to do all of the projects that we needed. So I think we should certainly consider planning just for the must-dos. In our own homes and our lives, we plan which things have to be done, which we can maybe do, and which ones we'll have to put off. If the economy is much better in a year or two, we can come back and talk about building additions to the schools. And right now, I think that's a very risky thing. Also, some of the economists are predicting a recession, and a couple even suggested we might be facing stagflation, which means both a stalled economy and inflation. So I don't know whether these predictions will come true, but at least right now we have a very unsettled economic picture. Thank you.
Trustee Cavallari.
Thank you, President McFarland. Thank you, Trustee Kellen, for your comments. I think in trying to think about the broader or multiple propositions, I think it would give the taxpayers the ultimate choice at the end of the day to which we're all beholden. And I think that any opportunity that we can expand choice to them, I think is a favorable thing. And I would certainly advocate multiple propositions over just one giant one. In my humble opinion, and I respect everyone's positions up here, I think that lumping this all together into one may seem advantageous in some area, but I see it as kind of being an all for nothing. And please let it be known, I want to put this out there for the record, where I think we're of the opinion that we need these and that these should be coming about. But I think there just needs to be a few more propositions added. That's all.
Trustee Miggott.
Yes, everyone has
I'm sorry
really,
to interrupt just before you start. I just want to make a motion. Could we extend the conversation? Let's go for another 10 minutes.
Motion for 10 more minutes. All in favor?
I think that people have brought forward a lot of valuable points, and I think it's good that we're having this discussion in public. But I think that we're losing track of what our vote is on tonight. We seem to be debating the merits of parts of the proposition. That's not what we're being asked to do here. We're being asked to vote on whether or not to put this before the voters. The ultimate choice is made by the voters. They are the ones with the power here who will decide what yes or no on the merits. My own personal thinking is that the more propositions we put out there, the more we divide it up, the more we're going to confuse the voters as to what they're actually voting for on each individual proposition.
Thank you very much. Mr. Solchow.
Just a few comments. Number one, if we move forward with building additions, that part of the project in all likelihood would not start probably for another 3 years. So things can always be evaluated at that time, whether we move forward with that or we don't. That part of the proposition, we can always come back, okay, and revoke and have it done, either put it back up for a vote and have that removed. Number two, we're talking about what we need to do now. Okay, what do we need to do now? Do we need to have art in the cart continue on a staircase and in a hallway? Do we continue to have faculty and staff have to share classrooms and pack up their things in between and move around buildings because their classroom needs to be utilized for either reading or a meeting? Do we continue to have CSE meetings on a stage or in a hallway? Do we continue not to provide the services for our special education students that we need? Let's put the additions to the side, okay? We currently, and believe it or not, currently do not have enough space in our buildings to do what we are doing right now. We don't have enough space for the curriculum, for the P-TECH, for the programs. We don't have enough space right now. Forget the additions. So what would be the solution? What is the solution to the challenges and the I have going on right now that we can't provide our students, our faculty and staff, the resources that they need and the tools that they need to do their jobs right now? We don't. things have changed over the years, and we're not in a position. We tried a redistricting, didn't work, didn't solve all the problems. It happened, so be it. Things changed. We still have numerous challenges that were not solved by the redistricting. Is that another road we want to go down? I don't think we do. And whether these 1,000+ homes between both sides of the districts ever get built, that's a challenge, and that's something down the road. Are we going to be proactive or reactive? Because if they do start building it, we're not going to be ready for the influx of students that may come. So we have to consider that. But bringing it right back, we do not have the space to provide the services to general ed students as well, okay? I don't know about any of you, but I talked to some students. They're not thrilled about having lunch at 9:30 in the morning, third period. I know I wouldn't want to have lunch at 9:30 in the morning. I just got to school, and 2 hours later, I'm having lunch. We don't have a large enough space at Van Wyck. You want to talk about Wappingers Junior High? Okay, they have no room for anything in that school. It was built in 1939. You ever go into the auditorium? It's a fire hazard. I'm surprised we haven't been cited. We have things laying around in the aisles. They do the best that they can. They can't, as Ms. Trustee Johnson said, why these kids are being forced, okay, not to have a music room. Another school has it. We're not looking at we should be looking at the problems that exist right now, and how can we solve the multitude of problems that exist right now for our students. And let's remember, if we move ahead and this passes, it's not going to happen in 1 year. It's going to take 2 or 3 years just to do some of the minor repairs that are going to come first before we even start considering adding the additions on and thinking about bringing back special education students that we can. Yes, Trustee Lumia, adding staff, it's going to cost money and so forth. But again, let's look at the numbers. Would you rather hire additional teachers at X amount of money here, or spend 10 times that amount to have to place that student out of district plus transportation? So we can look at numbers all around and compare what's going to work best. We don't know. But we have to have some foresight and think about what the challenges are now, what the challenges are 5 years from now, and what the challenges are 10 years from now. Everything is going up in cost. We factored in some escalation costs, knowing that we're not going to start this project in 3 years. So there's money that has been built into this, hoping that we don't have a tremendous increase in escalation costs. If we don't, then there's either extra money that'll go back to fund balance, or as Trustee Johnson said, we got a million other projects that we can do, because there is another $50+ million that are going to come up with. So
Point being, just so you all understand, we do not borrow the $153 million up front. We only borrow what we use. If we wind up only using $102 million, that's all we will borrow in the end. So you have to remember, this is the maximum amount that is possible, not a guarantee that we're going to that height.
thank you. And I'll end it because give some others a chance to speak.
5 minutes.
I know we have to, and the points brought up are excellent points, but spending 2+ years and 10+ years on this committee, okay, and things being pushed aside, okay, we're not addressing the problems, again, that exist now. The sooner we can fix them, the better off everybody will be, and then we can see how things go. You want to wait a year or 2 years and then do another proposition, okay? What do you think escalation
estimated costs are going to be, because 2 years from now means that project could be 5 or 6 years from now. Remember dealing with the state education department. Plus, we only have 60 days, okay, a summer to do something. So even if we put the additions on and we move ahead, that's not even going to be ready for 2 years. And that's not going to start for 3 or 4 years. So you're talking about those projects 5 to 7 years out. Okay, so those are the things we have to consider. And again, we're not stuck doing it just because we approve it to put it on the ballot and the taxpayers do it. If things change in 4 years and enrollment for some reason is 6,000 or 8,000, or it doesn't make sense to put the additions on, then those people in charge will make that decision. But again, we've laid the foundation and the groundwork for what could happen in the future. And not have somebody say, what the heck were these people thinking about 5, 6 years ago? Didn't they realize that this could happen? So we need to be proactive and think what is needed for today and doing as best as we can to think about what the needs are going to be for this district 5 or 10 years from now. Doesn't matter what gets done. Unfortunately, everything is going to be going up. Doesn't matter who's running the administration in Washington or not. Everything will go up. Nothing in my lifetime, and somebody tell me if I'm wrong, okay, nothing has ever gone down in price. And when they say, oh, I'm going to cut to this, or we'll cut to, forget it. It may come down a couple of dollars. Honestly, you're never going to see $1.99 eggs again, okay? It's not going to happen. Could it be $2.99? Maybe. So again,
I got a 3-minute warning.
I'm done. Thank you.
The clerk. Yes, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you.
We're going to need more time. Can we get another 10 minutes, please? Motion. All in favor? Thank you.
I was going to say, we're minutes away from moving the question one way or the other.
Right.
The thing to keep in mind, in my mind, is that I don't think anybody sitting up here that's a taxpayer in this district is enthusiastic about the amount of money that's tied up in this proposed proposition. I know I'm not. And well, maybe I don't tonight, but I need to go lay out medication for my parents who live in the district. They lie about their age, but they're both 93.
And you have a wife.
Like your wife?
No, she's younger. But the point is, I get the point that Trustee Luria makes in a very impassioned and respectful way. And I appreciate this conversation because we need to be mindful of what the price tag is. And I'm not enthusiastic about spending $153 million. That said, we don't have the space. Trustee Sloshower just said that currently to meet our current program. And that's been documented, and I don't think anybody's really disputing that. I would take a counterpoint as someone that studied economics and works in, keeping track of economic trends to a very well-constructed point that Trustee Kellen made, that because of the cost per student that we have in this district, that was highlighted earlier tonight as the lowest in Dutchess County, and the rising cost of construction materials and home building, I think that based on the positioning of Dutchess County in this particular school district within Dutchess County, that as costs go up, the attractiveness of living in this district on a relative basis will actually increase rather than decrease. Taking the numbers and the observations that you brought into play. And I think these are things that we need to keep in mind when saying that the current projections, based on birth rate, which is really all those projections are made on, which means, and Trustee Lemon and I have had this discussion. I know he's heard these words come out of my mouth. I'm not sure those projections are worth the paper that they're printed on. So we're talking about having flat enrollment over 10 years, going point to point, in the middle there being a bubble. So we can't fit our programs currently, and we've got a bubble moving through the system that we need to account for in some way, shape, or form. How can we account for that? Well, we could put much smaller additions on multiple schools, which I think would cost more. We could, as one trustee mentioned when we were, throwing around ideas, we could build another school. Property acquisition in and of itself, I think, makes that a non-starter. It'd be nice, but I think from an economic standpoint, that's a non-starter. From our economic standpoint, I think it's important that we make sure that we continue to provide a quality education. I also think, going back to a responsibility to both our taxpayers and our current and future students, the idea that our home values represent the quality education that this school district has delivered for very many years, despite, as Dr. Bonk pointed out, having not built a building, having put on additions, but not having built a building since 1969. In 1969, we built a building, and the 9th largest school district in New York State has not built one since. So there's no debate that we need to put money into these buildings to maintain them, because that hasn't always been done. So I feel that from a necessity standpoint, we've got building repairs on all the buildings that need to be done. And we've got needs of students, current and future, that we're not in a position to meet as well as we would like right now. And that's why, despite the fact that I don't like the price tag any more than I like the price tag on a lot of things, I think we need to move forward with this proposition with thanks and gratitude to the Capital Committee who's been working on it. Just like when it comes to the next motion on the agenda, I'm going to turn to Trustee Kellen, who chairs the Policy Committee, and ask for her input and guidance, because I respect the work of that committee. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Trustee Morgan. Appreciate it.
Somebody asked why are we having this discussion, or you asked that question in terms of, yeah, you did. You said, what are we voting on tonight? Are we voting on the propositions, or are we voting just to have one?
So,
okay.
Right now, there was a proposition,
I made the motion to amend.
and second, to put this as two individual propositions. So the question is the amendment, right?
I think we have to vote on my amendment.
First, we vote on the amendment.
And then vote on the motion.
So your question, does it pertain to that?
That's what you said, no.
Okay, Dr. Bud, Trustee Odom, do you have anything for us? Okay. Dr. Bunk, do you have anything to add to this before we make a motion? We'll vote on it. 5-minute warning, by the way.
I will be very brief. I provided a presentation on the need for doing what has been suggested in the first proposition a month ago in the board meeting. I believe it lasted about 45 minutes, and then there was another 45 minutes of conversation. And I attempted to make it very clear with a chart as to programs that we currently have that we're not going to continue to have unless we do something that impacts all of our buildings. With all due respect, you indicated, Trustee Lumia, must need, must do. That might be different for you, for Trustee Johnson, we all may have different ideas as what is a must do. What is it that we need to do? So I think that if you break it up into, well, what must we do and what may we do, I don't quite understand how you represent all of the people by doing that, because there are certain people that value certain things that others may not value. I think you have to put it all together to have a proposition that the entire community can hopefully support.
and gain whatever it might be that they feel is in the interest of their child that they feel that they need. Whether that's the use of an athletic field at the high school where our teams can't use the field because they can't schedule it because we don't have enough of it. Where our community can't use our athletic fields because our teams are always using it. Where we have issues with art on a cart, or we're using auditoriums as classrooms, or what I would say, from my perspective, in the areas where we're currently growing in population, which is special education and ELL, those require a different type of program that we have never provided before, based upon the needs of our students. So when you cite with respect the fact that the population and the enrollment has gone down, you're absolutely right. But even though that the population and the enrollment has gone down, the needs have changed to be more specialized. That requires more space. So from my perspective, I believe I outlined the reasons why I believe that this proposition, as one proposition, should move forward in that realm, as opposed to breaking it up, because I believe that if you come up with one proposition, there's something in it for everybody. Whereas if you go with separate propositions, you're pitting certain people against certain people and certain propositions against certain propositions. I don't think that's the prudent way to move forward, especially with the needs that we have. And we've talked about opportunities. The board talks about it every meeting. That's the majority of the communications are about opportunities. If we don't do these types of things, if we don't restore athletic fields at the junior high schools, if we don't do the work that we need to do with the athletic fields at the high schools, or do some of the repairs that we need to do at the elementary schools, those opportunities are going to diminish. And we need those opportunities more than anything else. So with respect, I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate everything that was communicated. I just wanted to give my perspective as superintendent.
So we have there's two different meetings.
One last comment, if I may. The must-do was identified by the capital committee. All those projects must be done, have to be done. And it can't, under my proposition one, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Under my suggestion, I have two propositions. Proposition one, the capital improvement can identify once again every one of those objects.
We have a 1 minute warning.
But anyway, look,
Okay.
I made an amendment.
Let's just vote.
We want to vote on this amendment, okay? So
Can I just make one quick statement? Mr. Levy,
you're out of time. You're out of time.
Motion for 2 minutes.
No more motions.
Okay,
Let's vote on the amendment and then go to the next resolution, okay?
we identified everything as a must-do. That's what came out of committee. So that's why we presented the project the way we did.
Yes, can we vote on the amendment to the, to separate the proclamation? All in favor? To separate them into two. Any opposed? Mr. Lumiere, Ms. Kellen, and Mr. Odom.
To separate it. Thank you.
That's 4 people want to separate it.
And trustee Capillari.
And then those yeses?
No.
No.
Oh, no, to keep it as one proposition.
No. Two separate, I'm sorry.
There was a motion by Mr. Lumia. It was seconded by Trustee Kellen. The motion was to separate to two propositions. The vote on that is, right now, there are 4 yeses. Ms. Lumia, Ms. Kellen, Mr. Odoms, Mr. Capillari.
Any opposed? And there's 5 opposed. Any abstentions? I see none. So the motion to separate has failed. So we're going to take a roll call attendance for the proposition as originally proposed, originally written, right? Virgil Capellara.
Yes or no?
You're for it? Yes. He is for the proposition. Marie Johnson,
Yes.
she is for the proposition. Peggy Kellen,
No.
she is against the proposition. John Lumia,
No.
he is against the proposition. Michael McFarland, I vote yes for the proposition. Cheryl Miggets,
I vote yes.
Cheryl Miggets votes yes for the proposition. John Morgan,
I'm in favor of the proposition.
John Morgan is in favor of the proposition. Keith Odom,
Yes.
Keith Odom votes yes. Eddie Sloshower,
I'm in favor of the proposition.
Eddie Sloshower votes yes. So the proposition has been approved. So moved. 8.12, adopt new version of policy 0111, Title 9, and sex discrimination, and rescind previous policy 0111 and 0110.1R, sexual harassment of students regulations.
Whereas in August 2020, the board revised its policies on sexual harassment to comply with the federal Title IX regulations in place at the time. And whereas in 2014, those regulations were modified. I'm sorry.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Where,
Promulgate.
that's it. I'm tired from Mystery Gate, I told you. I apologize. Whereas in 2024, those regulations were modified, and in July 2024, the board adopted a new policy 0111, Title IX and sex discrimination, that complied with the 2024 Title IX regulations. And whereas in January 2025, the 2024 Title IX regulations were struck down by a federal court, and school districts were instructed to revert back to compliance with the 2020 Title IX regulations. Now, therefore, the Board of Education hereby rescinds its current policy 0111, Title IX and sex discrimination, and further, 1, adopts a new version of policy 0111 that complies with the 2020 Title IX regulations. 2, rescinds 0110.1-R, sexual harassment of students regulation.
Motion. Marie Johnson first. Peggy Killen seconded. All in favor? Any discussion? I'm sorry.
And, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but as the chair of the policy committee, could you just give us a summary of the highlights, shorter than our last discussion?
Well, basically, the Trump administration, the first Trump administration, had one set of rules for enforcement and investigation and triggers for when you would investigate Title IX sex discrimination issues. The Biden administration modified those to include transgender and so forth issues. And then the new Trump administration reverted to the old one. So basically, we're just complying with federal law and regulations, whatever they may be at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, all in favor? Unanimous, so moved. 8.13, first reading of policies, silent reading.
If you have any questions from the public, please refer them to Ms. Kellen.
Ms. Kelly. 9.01, board members may request additional agenda items discussion items or request information? Mr. Morgan?
I don't know if I need a motion for this, but just as a discussion item, Vice President Snowshower read many long motions, and we used that as an opportunity for some comic relief. And I appreciate the good spirit in which he took that in. We then very rapidly pivoted to an item that the board was divided on, as evidenced by the 5-4 vote on Trustee Lumia's proposal. But the level of discussion on both sides was serious and respectful. And, you know, sometimes this is a lousy job, and it's one that is, it's not always one that I wake up on Tuesday morning and go, boy, I'm glad I got to do that last night. But I want to thank my fellow trustees for the seriousness and civility with which we disagreed in public. I think that was a good discussion. And I think when the voters decide, they'll know that despite the fact that we took some levity earlier in the meeting, that this was a serious decision, and they've got both sides of the serious, thoughtful arguments to be made laid out for them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. We didn't need a motion for that. Okay. 10.01, comments from the public.
Yeah, now it's your turn, President
My
McFarland.
turn. Where am I?
Unless you want me to do it. It's up to you.
We have two people signed up for public comments. I'm going to read your statement. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to listen to public comments. Although the state law does not require us to hold public comment periods, we have chosen to do so because we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members and their concerns and issues. The board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a debate or dialogue. So please do not expect the board to respond to your concerns, requests tonight. We take your concerns and requests seriously and want to have significant time to process and research any issues. If need be, any questions from the public should be submitted through the use of public comment form, a form which can be obtained online or at the desk of the district clerk. We will have the proper staff member get back to you as soon as possible. I also want to point out that under New York State federal privacy laws, we are unable to address any comments or questions about specific students, school personnel. We would ask that you go through the appropriate administration channels. A total of 30 minutes has been at the beginning of each board meeting is set aside to allow for public comments on agenda items only. Public comments at the beginning of the meeting is limited only to its items on the agenda. Persons who wish to participate in the public comment portion of the meeting is asked to provide their name and a specific agenda item about which they wish to speak. A sign-in sheet is located at the desk of the district clerk. Individual comments on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes and are welcome. If you wish to address items related to our school district that cannot be on tonight's agenda, another comment period is provided at the end of the meeting for that purpose. A second sign-in sheet is available for non-agenda items. In the event of civility and respect for different points of views, clapping, booing, or any disturbance during either public comment period or any comment period. At this time, comments are related to agenda items or public comments are welcome. So we have Craig Russo. Is that correct, Russo?
able to my book. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Greg Yudo. This is music today, and you're going to bring my statement.
Hello, my name is Lucas Gons, and I'll be reading the remainder of Craig's statement. As mentioned, my name is Craig, and I am a volunteer with a 501c3 nonprofit Defense of Democracy. I am a disabled adult who attended the Wappingers School District as a child. I have watched as this district made strong advances to advocate for students with disabilities, and I thank you for that effort. These days, we hear our federal government openly promising to defund our public schools and libraries, and they have specifically focused on dismantling our important diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts that I've heard you speak about so often with so much pride. I've been at the last few school board meetings and have heard several parents speak and request that you issue a statement that will comfort parents of queer students, and I've been disappointed that you have not acknowledged their requests. I appeal to the Wappingers Central School District Board of Education to issue the statement requested regarding our LGBT students. And when you craft your statement, please do not forget that nearly 7.7 million students, about 15% of all public school children, receive essential special education services under the umbrella IDEA, with additional students supported through Section 504 accommodation plans. In the 2023-24 school year, 18% of our students accessed special education through individualized education programs, IEPs, in addition to a significant number of students that are benefiting from accommodations under their 504 accommodation plans. The proposed defunding or dismantling of the Department of Education threatens the stability of these critical services, potentially leaving families and our most vulnerable students without the support they depend on, denying students the individualized education they're entitled to by law, and placing enormous strain on families already navigating the challenges of raising children with disabilities. I am one of many people awaiting public assurance that the Wappingers School Board will fight for equitable funding and uphold the principle that every child, regardless of ability, deserves access to a free and appropriate public education that empowers their future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Allison Conti?
Hello. What I wrote is kind of outdated because you all voted. I spoke a month ago about how I used to be so disgusted to be here. One of the trustees said tonight that they respected that everyone stayed respectful. And no, there wasn't yelling and shouting and screaming and stamping like 10 years ago. But I feel like questions are being asked over and over again that are just fear-mongering. What the taxes are going to look like. What's this going to do in 7 years? What if the government decides to take away this? It's fear-mongering. I lived through the fear-mongering through redistricting. There was a committee member from that committee who was a former PTA president. She wanted to be here, but she can't, and I can't say why because you'll know who she is, who finds that we're in the same place. We're kicking the can down the road. Like, there is nothing, respectfully. Ceiling tiles are important. I've been talking about them for 10 years too, a gay head. They're brown. There were tiles coming up. Dr. Bonk's got a picture in the old mobiles behind gay head. But to claim that that's more important than kids getting services in a hallway, breaking the law, and parents have to have CSE meetings there so everybody can hear them, and their rights and privacy are given away, is deplorable to me. There are so many advocates, respectfully, including myself, that haven't filed because we're doing doing the best that we can. But if we're going to sit here and argue on what's a must-have, breaking the law and keeping the kids safe are both must-haves. 10 years ago, we used to call this WCSD, and it didn't stand for, sarcastically, Wappinger Central School District. It used to stand for the woulda, coulda, shoulda. And I said this to you a month ago, I'm going to say it again. When I thought we got a new board and a new superintendent and a great senior admin team, that we were done with this. It sends a very disgusting message to me, as some of you have stated. You've never voted down a proposition. So what exactly are you telling the public when you're not unanimous? I'm so sorry. I find it appalling. Parents don't know what some of you know or some of us know. They don't understand the numbers. If they don't watch this, how many people don't watch? You can see how many views. So we're going to try to separate them. And then the public's going to be like, well, this must be not that important because we put it less. I found, with all due respect, I didn't find it as respectful. I don't know if all of you really listened, and I don't think respectfully all of you are really hands on the ground enough to know some of the questions and implications you asked. And to have Dr. Bonk or the Capital Committee, I've never been on, it's one of the few committees I never stepped on. I've been listening to it over and over, and I just felt like you didn't respect something. Ed and I used to dispute at board meetings. He wanted to save money, I wanted to spend money. These people have been doing this for 10 years. That's just my opinion.
Thank you. So if we can move on to 11.01, adjourning of our meeting this evening. So do I have a motion for that? Just got to read it.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby adjourn the March 10th, 2025 Board of Education meeting. The time is 10:38 p.m.
Motion. Mr. Capillari. Marie Johnson, second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, everyone.